Hello. The 42 line 2, what we're looking at today. Second lines can have a lack of self-awareness. This is one of the things about their mechanic, really. There can be a total disregard of the visibility that they have for what they're able to do, and sometimes even their behavior. This lack of self-awareness can cause boundary issues, especially if they haven't been educated to understand the dynamic of being a second line and their need for discrimination. Second lines have to be really particular about everything, really. The people in their lives, the food that they eat, and primarily, of course, answering the correct call. So the 42-2 is called identification. Second lines do not know that they have the gift of being able to capitalize on trends. They have to be called out for it, for sure, but even then they might not believe it. Ra uses the example of calling out a 42-2 by saying to them, I notice something about you. You are really good at identifying things that can go on for a long time. What do you think about this idea that I have? Whatever it is. What do you think about this? Is this something that's going to last? And from that, the 42-2, that calling out, they will be able to identify that trend one way or the other. He says if that a 42-2 offers you the information about a trend, don't trust it. It has to be called out to be of value. So the exaltation says power for growth through participating in trends, but only if they're called out. This is the moment that they can see whether something will last or not. This is that moment. And this is where growth has huge potential to come through. And the detriment says an aesthetically motivated withdrawal in times of progressive change. And this is someone who can be very fixed in their withdrawal. They're not interested in computers, for example. They like writing letters. They like using pen and paper. So they'll withdraw, but they'll do it with, I've got principles here. These people might recognize a trend, but they don't actually want to be involved in it. And it seems very appropriate that the grounding to this is the 32, which won't follow a trend unless it's been proven to be reliable and of no risk to the tribe. This line 2 here is called restraint. The 32-2 is, it's afraid of failure, as we know. And one of the things it's called afraid to be called out on, hold on, I said that the wrong way around. One of the things the 32 feels is it does not want to be called out as a second line because it doesn't want to fail. It's that inherent feeling. It can't get away from that feeling of failure. So here we find the restraint. If I don't come out, if I don't answer the call, I'm not going to fail. Although, of course, in a way, you could look at it that by not answering that call, you're failing to answer the call as much as anything else, but you're not engaging in your life anymore. So where the 42-2 can recognize a trend, the 32-2 can recognize the value of something. It knows value. So it's not the trend itself, it's maybe the value of the trend. So either they have that or people can recognize that about them. It's the thing that they get called out for. What do you think the price of this should be? Do you think this has any value? It can be that kind of thing. Because the 32-2 inherently knows the value of something. And it can ground the 42-2 really beautifully with its gift of knowing whether something is actually worth valuing in the first place. The moon. The moon, we go into gate 8. And so we're in throat gates at the moment with the moon. So at 4:40 BST, we're in the gate of contribution. And this is the basic worth realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals. Individuality, gate 8. So this is the need to contribute something. I know people who've got gate 8, and if they're not able to contribute, if they don't feel they've got something of value to contribute, it can be really distressing for them. And it's also something unique that they have, that individuality. There isn't they're not copying anybody else and bringing something through. It has to be something unique. They're setting an example with that. They're attracting attention with that. It can be very creative. It's very much drawn to what is new, what is innovative. It carries mutative potential, of course, because all of individuality does, and therefore it has that potential to change the collective, possibly with its art or whatever else it's creating. At 2:10 this afternoon, we're going to gate 20, and this is the gate of contemplation, the gate of the now. And again, it has that individual flavor. It's concerned with being in the now for itself. It's not an experience that it's sharing with anybody else. It's not concerned with the past or the future, but just with being here now. And when it's connected to the sacral, of course, this manifesting generator that we get through can move very fast without thinking about things. Before you've even finished asking a question, they are off their seat and off and moving. And that is their response in a way. Because if you've got the whole channel there, the 2034, then you've got someone who moves so fast that actually there's no time for their sacral response to actually verbalize. It becomes an action. And we have also gate 16. Gate 16 is the gate of skills, the gate of enthusiasm, and this is at 23:48. This is the repeating of something over and over again for mastery. This is the great art of enriching life by the harmonic channeling of energy. And it needs to be strongly identified. It is the voice of I identify, or having that energy of putting everything you've got into what it is that you're doing, into the skill that you have chosen to master. So have some awareness around any of these moon energies today as they pass through. Sometimes they're too quick for us to really notice. Sometimes we're asleep and sometimes we're actually in bed asleep rather than just walking through our day, not paying any attention to it. It can be very hard to keep some awareness of these energies when we've got our jobs and our families and just life coming in. But we have some big news today. Oh yeah, Pluto, our outermost planet, is leaving gate 60, and just for a little while, but it's been there for quite a while. And it does actually retrograde back in 5 weeks' time. But until then, it's going into gate 41. It goes in at 2032 BST. And that's on the 11th for anybody who's watching this out of sync. Okay, so later on tonight for those of us in Europe. So gate 41 is the gate of contraction and decrease, which is a juxtaposition, isn't it, really? Because the sun is currently in the gate of growth and increase. Pluto is the planet of truth and transformation. So what does it mean that it is shifting, just as Neptune is also shifting out of quite a long transit from crisis into innocence? Will we begin to see the truth of what Neptune has been veiling? Will that transform something in our understanding? Gate 41 is the start codon, and it is the pressure for a new experience. It's something, something that is going to transform our lives. It's one of those things, it will teach us what it is that we need to learn. These are the energies of Pluto. Pluto can be represented by the grandmother, the wise one, who tells it to us like it is. She doesn't pull any punches. She helps us learn what it is that we need to learn. And sometimes we have to go into the darkness to find our truth. And this is something else that Pluto tells us. We have to find the light in the shadow. When Pluto is not retrograding, it takes nearly 4 years to transit just one gate. So, of course, the retrograde movements that it makes change that. And this is what we see over the next 3 years as Pluto dances between gate 60 and 41 and 19 and 41. And, and there's a lot of movement with Pluto. So does this mean that there's going to be a lot of movement in truth, in transformation, in what we perceive to be truth, in what we find as our deepest lessons? It's part of the big change that's coming in 2027 when Pluto is in gate 41 line 4. this is when the mutation comes into the world in 2027. So this is when the background frequency changes, when we move from the time of the community and the tribe into a time of the individual. So is this a precursor to that? Because also in 2027, we'll have 51 and 57 as part of the background energy. And we've got that at the moment with the nodes. So is there going to be some kind of feeling of, okay, this is what we could tap into? So I invite you to find a quiet place at 8:30 this evening, or whatever time that is for you. This is BST, yeah? So this is GMT +1. But you might want to get out of the aura of other people so that you can really be in your own space when this shift happens. Because Pluto doesn't shift that often. This is a real opportunity for us to tap into what that energy might feel like. And if you feel like it, I would love to hear what your experience is. Even if your experience is, I felt nothing. I'm not especially sensitive to the transits myself, as much as I'd like to be, and as much as I invest my time and energy in watching the movements of the transits. When it comes to actually feeling them in my body, I often don't. Generally speaking, I don't. But please do leave a message in the comments if you would like to. And I will be back tomorrow with a third line day, and we'll see how things pan out, see if we feel what going into Pluto is in our experience, or any of the other transits that are around at the moment, with the moon constantly and the sun and the earth. I mean, everything is in change. It's the only thing that endures is change, right? I mean, that's what we learn with Gate 32. So until tomorrow, go gently, and I hope you enjoy your day, and I will see you soon.